Sergeant David Winchester of the Bucksport Police Department. Interestingly enough, David's anniversary date with the town for 18 years of service was February 3rd of this year. So he started out in patrol, but is now at the right hand of the chief and work in the department and administration, as well as very active patrol, detective, and investigation duties. David is a well-known and well-respected sergeant in our department and beyond this department in the region and in the state. But his most recent significant act, and I won't say his most recent, because it's one in a line of them over the course of his career, is that this year he received on February 9th the Maine Chief of Police Bravery Award. And he received that for his actions at a fire on Central Street on April 10th of 2017, in which he not only got one person out of burning structure, he went back in and got a second, and was appropriately rewarded by the Maine Chiefs Association for those actions as a bravery award. And we wanted to recognize him tonight for the council and the community, for us to say thank you, David, for your service to this community and for your very brave and heroic actions in the line of duty here. We appreciate certainly that act, but more than that, we appreciate you every day and what you bring to the job and what you bring to this community. So we have Council hereby recognizes Sergeant David Winchester for receiving the Maine Chief of Police Bravery Award for his actions in saving lives at a fire scene in Bucksport, Maine on April 10th, 2017. Thank you very much. Our Chief of Police is here this evening. If you'd like to say a few words, you can do so.
I think you did well.
Thank you.
You don't want me to get up there. You have a long night.
Okay.
Good call, Chief.
Okay, item B is Jill Johannan from Alpha One.
Yes, thank you. I also have with me Jason Angel from the New England ADA Center, who is going to give an introduction about why we came up today to meet with Town Manager. Sorry.
How you doing? My name's Jason, and again, this is Jill. I'm from the New England ADA Center, and Susan was very gracious enough to spend some of her time in helping us with our survey tool, which we are looking to determine what barriers there are to implementing the ADA across New England. So, just to give a little context, I'm from sort of Maine. I grew up in the Newport and Skowhegan area, and I think the last time I was in town was for a wrestling meet. So it's nice to be back and kind of see the different things. I had a car accident right just after high school. I mean, I missed graduation because of it. And so it kind of put me on a different path. So interestingly, the ADA was passed the same month I was injured. So I was pretty fortunate to have this legislated protection against discrimination, but also these strict guidelines in which it build accessibility, ever since its passage. So while my life might have taken a turn down a different path, I think it's one that led me to help others. And that's kind of why I'm here and why I'm with the New England ADA Center. So Congress, recognizing how complex the ADA was, set up these 10 regional centers across the United States to provide the guidance needed for this really kind of intricate law. And what we'll do is we'll field phone calls from people, individuals, from communities, and from even designers like Jill, and trying to figure out either what a person's rights are individually in an employment situation, what a community's obligation is to implementing the ADA, or even what the design standard are for something as specific as a curb ramp or a bathroom. And we provide that guidance through the ADA. Now, just so everybody's clear, we're not an enforcement agency. What we're here is to figure out a way to help communities and help individuals understand their rights and then better themselves and their communities through the ADA. So what we're looking to do today as part of our research is to understand what barriers there are and challenges there are to implementing this complex law. Part of our research has been completed in the demographic study of New England. So we had a demographer from the U.S. Census Bureau. He's getting his PhD right now at Harvard, and he analyzed the 6 different states, and Maine, surprisingly, is one of the oldest states, I think, in the country, and most definitely the region, with your population of baby boomers ages 50 to 72, that it's 28% of your population, and the national average is 23%. And that has a huge impact on communities like yourself. And not only do we position be assistance to communities, but what we're trying to do is this type of research so that it can develop strategies and tools in helping implementation. The action guide mentioned in the agenda is one to help communities that may have not started down the path of implementing the ADA, or they're in it and trying to figure out what they need to do to fulfill their obligations. And so it creates this level of steps to navigate through. Not only that, but we're here as phone support for the community and for individuals. And so what we're hoping is that with Sue's gracious participation today, that we'll really define our tool, not only to make sure that it's clear when people take this survey, but we get the information we need to figure out where some problem areas are, and that we can then devise a strategy, devise a tool to help make things easier. With a large population of people aging, retiring, so does the prevalence of disability. And so preparing yourselves, as you've already have in discussions with Sue, this is great. I mean, you'll just be that much more ahead, and we're going to try to take this to other communities that can help. And Jill's just going to say a few words about her interaction with some of the leadership in improving accessibility here in Bucksport. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So just to follow up on that, the reason why we selected Bucksport out of all the towns in Maine is because of the leadership that you're showing for accessibility. We first met the Senior Resource Committee years ago and came up and did a presentation on Know Your Rights to help educate them on what the law says, because most people don't understand the ADA. So we started there, and we've been helping them. And what we've learned from working with their relationship and learning more today is just how much you are doing really well in Maine, in Bucksport, as a leader in Maine. So what we've learned from the Senior Resource Committee is that they've persisted, and they've persevered, and they've planned, and they've built partnerships with you. And that is a key factor that nobody else in Maine has. So I'd just like to, again, thank you for working with them and that you are doing really well. We've seen the sidewalk changes. We actually got to just experience them, the nice clear snow. I know we had a nice warm day yesterday, but still very nice. And also the grants that you've done, the $500 grant for businesses to encourage them to become accessible. Again, I don't think any other community has that, and you guys are a leader in Maine, which is fantastic. And to stay tuned, coming soon, we're working on a handrail brochure that the Senior Resource Committee has found a grant for. So we're going to help seniors get that independence that they deserve and desire, and help everybody live and enjoy Bucksport better, and hopefully spread that around the rest of the state. So thank you again, and keep up the good work, and we look forward to seeing more from Bucksport.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I was really honored that they asked to come to Bucksport, where they had a prototype of the survey that they're looking to send out to all of the communities, and being asked to go through that and give feedback on the instrument and how the questions were and what they covered. It was, I was honored to participate in that and hope that feedback was worthwhile, and look forward to seeing what the results are. So.
I want to add that I went for a walk on one of the warm days, I think, over the weekend, and I'm still impacted by the walk around we did with the seniors and the things that were being pointed out. So when I walk Main Street now, I'm sure everybody else is the same way, I look at it differently than I did before I had walked in the shoes with the people that were pointing those things out. So grateful for that, because it's definitely different.
And I'd just like to recognize, can those folks stand up, the senior resource folks that are here? Please stand up, because you guys are the ones that hold Thank you. Keep us doing our job.
Okay, we're going to go on to item C, which is a discussion item from the town manager.
Well, this is not on the agenda, but if anyone has seen the news before they came here or read the paper, many of you may already know that AIM Development has contracted with a company called Whole Oceans, which is a Maine-based business that will do land-based aquaculture of Atlantic salmon at the former mill site. The company has been working on this project for the past 6 years and in site selection for nearly 4 years. They have been meeting with the town, Rich and I, and AIM for the past 16 months. Rich Rotella, our Economic and Community Development Director, has worked diligently to get them any information that they needed and has been key in this project. They've also met for nearly 2 years with state and federal regulators to discuss their project and any necessary permitting that they have to do in order to make the project a reality. They are an environmentally committed organization that seeks not just to produce salmon in Bucksport, but to be a part of the community as well. As you will see from the video that Rich is going to show in just a few minutes, their plan for the site is to even include walking trails and access for the public in addition to their production facility. They have signed a purchase and sale agreement with AIM, and that is the first milestone in this process. There is now a 30-day due diligence period during which they will finalize other agreements and work through details. Company officials look forward to coming to Bucksport and will be holding meetings to introduce themselves and answer any questions that people may have about this project. The first phase of the project will include a production facility that grows 5,000 metric tons of Atlantic salmon annually. They will employ approximately 50 people in this phase in jobs ranging from marine biologists to electricians to laborers to administrative personnel. Additional phases include a feed mill plant to make the food that the salmon will eat, and eventual expansion at the site is to be able to grow 20,000 metric tons of Atlantic salmon a year. Land-based aquaculture is an emerging industry in the United States, and Whole Oceans in Bucksport is one of only 3 firms with current plants in this country to do this work. One is in Miami, which is under construction. One is proposed for Belfast, which I'm sure you've heard about, and here. To assuage any concerns about whether Belfast and Bucksport would be in competition, you need to understand the market. 500,000 metric tons of salmon are consumed in the United States annually. 95% of that salmon comes from another country. 40% from Chile, 40% from Norway, and the balance from Canada. There is a huge opportunity for companies to get into this business in the United States. And it's important that they do for a couple of reasons. One is to address the significant trade deficit that exists for that trade inequity, meaning the 500,000 tons that come here with only a very small here. And the second is food security issues, since salmon is essentially a perfect protein in that it's a one-to-one relationship, pound of salmon to pound of protein, as compared to beef, which is 8 pounds to 1, or pork, which is, I believe, 5 to 1, and chicken, maybe 3 to 1. So it's a very efficient protein, and one that the United States doesn't produce sufficiently for its own population. Whole Oceans has done its homework and built a strong foundation on which to build a successful and community-friendly business in Bucksport, Maine. They know, for example, that the location they want to be on was once known as Salmon Point, and that at one time the Penobscot River had the densest population of Atlantic salmon in America. The mill closed just over 3 years ago. At the time AIM got its deconstruction permit from the town 2 years ago, it indicated that it had a 5-year redevelopment window that it hoped to meet. This development is well within that time frame. Whole Ocean's plan is to continue permitting and start construction in 2018 and to be in production in 2019, with the first salmon produced in 2021. Rich is now going to show you a video that Whole Oceans has produced of a prototype at the Bucksport site of what this facility may look like, and Rich has some additional information.
Hey everybody, I got to meet with Rob Piazzo and the team from Whole Oceans back on October 11th, 2016. So to say, we've been working at this for a while would be an understatement, but the team with Whole Oceans, the team over at AIM, and the town office have done a great job of working together to make this happen. I want to reward you with being the first people to be able to see the video of what the proposed location will look like. One second, I'm going to start that right over for you. Hang on 1 second, sorry.
Can't hear it.
Yeah. Here's our okay.
Well, we can watch it. It's got great music if you go to their website, but this is Bucksport.
Where's your remote?
The video is available for all to see on the website, www.wholeoceans.com, and it's all out there. You can see from the pictures, if you look at it a couple times like I had to, the site of where the fitness center used to be. There's all cars. There's cars going in the streets. There's cars on site. There's a walking path at the back of the property where it's all grassed out. And as you can see, There were buildings that you may see there today that you did not see in the video. So for those concerned about those will be coming down. So, thank you. I apologize for the audio difficulties. It worked earlier. But,
Anything else on that?
No, I do want to say that the signatures on this project passed this afternoon, late this afternoon, and there was a discussion Whole Oceans had with their project team about when it would be best to put this out to the public. And from their perspective, it would have been more advantageous for them to release this information on Monday morning when it had a whole week to run, and because Friday's kind of the black hole of the news. You know, something comes out Friday, gets lost in the weekend. But the entire reason that they released it tonight was so that I could talk about it at this council meeting, and that the people of Bucksport and the council were the first discussion in this video before it had already been released to the media prior to this meeting. But this meeting, if they had waited, there would not have been another scheduled public council meeting until March 8th, and there wouldn't have been the opportunity to do what we did tonight, which is talk about it here in terms of that. And so, to me, that's just one more indicator of the caliber of company that is looking to locate in Bucksport and wants to be a part of the community, as opposed to they approached this community with a conversation. Their entire presentation has been about how and why Bucksport is the best place for this, and how they can be good community citizens as a business here. And I think as we've talked about what the community wanted to see at that site, it's an industrial site. Industrial valuation is an important component to a community. It provides needed valuation base, and it very little draw on public services. But finding environmentally conscious, non-environmentally negative industry is not an easy task. And to have done so with emerging technology in a growth sector with the capacity that this one has to expand in the United States is huge for this community, and in rebuilding the valuation that site formerly contributed without the negative side effects, shall we say, that it may have had as well. So I personally can't wait for you all to meet this company and their representatives, and they will be able to answer your questions. They have built a very strong foundation. They have worked with regulators. They know what they're doing, and they know how they're going to do it, and they're going to be happy to share with you just exactly what that is. So I am extremely pleased for the community that they have selected Bucksport, and think that it will be a good fit for the diverse economic profile that Bucksport has indicated that it wants to have, and will complement with an E the other sectors that are important here, the arts and commercial establishments and residential and the waterfront. All of those things can coexist well. So stay tuned. We'll be scheduling meetings.
It's kind of ironic, you think back in the 1800s, Bucksport was known as the salted cod capital of the East Coast. Captain Nickerson, the Nickerson building right down the street, he had a fleet of grand bankers that would go out and catch cod and they'd salt them down and basically provide salted cod for the people up and down the East Coast. And of course, refrigeration came and the salted cod business kind of went out of the way. But it's kind of like we've come for a full circle again. Now we're going to be back into helping feed the nation, which is kind of exciting. So. Anyway, we'll go on to item 4, consider minutes of previous meetings. First one being February 1st, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have motion and second to approve the special council meeting for February 1st, 2018. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, approve the minutes from the council meeting for February 8th, 2018.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have motion and second to approve the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. We'll go on to item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. First one being Down East Transportation ridership for January.
Yes, this is our taxi and bus, and as you'll know, notice the taxis continues on an upswing, thanks to the efforts of Senior Resource and Leslie, and they've now put out a schedule that is posted all over town so that people know when and where and how the bus works and the cab works, and the result is that we're seeing an increase in all of this. This year's budget includes some additional transportation funds to augment dates and times on this. So,
Thank you.
thank you, Senior Resource Committee and Leslie Rabs, for the work on the transportation issues.
Any questions on that? Okay, we'll go on to item 6, ordinances to be considered or introduced. We have a draft contract for contract zoning agreement. This is the first reading. Jeff?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This agenda item is an ordinance that involves a change to the town's official zoning map, and it's an unusual change in that it affects only one property. That type of change is called a contract zone change, and it's called a contract zone change because it involves a contractual agreement between the town and the owner of that property. The change requires approval by the planning board and the town council. It has received planning board approval, and so that's why we're here tonight, to get your approval. And I want to show you some pictures just to help you understand where this property is located and anybody else who's interested in it. So I've outlined on this photo the lot we're talking about. It'll be subject to the contract zone agreement. This is Central Street right here, and Silver Lake is here. We have the town's landfill here, and the public works garage is located right here in this area. There's some residential properties here. I'll show you a better picture of that in a moment. So the property is owned by Michael Hawes, and he is proposing a mobile home park. And the reason why it needs to involve a contract zone change is because mobile home parks are not currently allowed in the zoning district. So this is a picture of it's a sketch of the proposed mobile home. Central Street is here. There are 2 entrances, and these are the lots that are laid out. This configuration is going to change, I think, significantly once space is allowed for the on-site wastewater treatment that's proposed, as well as any stormwater management improvements that are required to satisfy the subdivision ordinance and the state permitting. So just keep in mind that's not the final plan. So as I said, mobile home parks are not allowed, and this picture here shows you, again, here's the lot we're talking about. And I've outlined an area over here where this is one of 2 areas in the entire town where mobile home parks are allowed. And there happens to be one in this area. There's a small mobile home park right about in here. This is a residential subdivision that you recently accepted maintenance of that road, Royal Ridge Lane. The other place in the town where mobile home parks are allowed, you can see a part of it here. It's in the Route 15 Residential Commercial District that goes up River Road. Mobile home parks have to be within 5 miles of Main Street in that district. So the point of this illustration is to show you that the area where mobile home parks are allowed is in very close proximity to where the proposed mobile home park will be located. And this photo just gives you a better picture of, here's the landfill, transfer station is right here, and here's the town garage. This is a road that goes down behind town garage to a parking lot where you can set out on foot to enjoy the recreational trails that we have. This is town-owned property here. There's some beautiful areas to hike down through here. And the plan, as I understand it, is for this property to also have trails for the benefit of the tenants who will reside in the mobile home park, possibly even connecting with the trails on the town property. And this map is to show you that this is the watershed of Silver Lake, and the X marks the spot of where the mobile home park is proposed. So you can see clearly it's in the watershed of Silver Lake, which is our public water supply. So it's very important to assure that our public water supply is protected, and if this contract zone proposed change is approved by the council, the next step for the property owner is to return to the planning board for subdivision review. And that's where they're going to get into the details about water quality protection, stormwater management, things of that nature. After he gets through the planning board review, he has to go to DEP for permitting, and they're going to look at the same issues there as well. So, as I said, it's a contract, and the contract has to spell out certain conditions. The proposed rezoning has to be consistent with the purposes of the comprehensive plan. It has to be consistent with existing and permitted uses in the underlying districts. And mobile homes, by the way, mobile homes are allowed in the district that's there now. The R1 district does allow individual lots to have mobile homes. It's just the mobile home park is not allowed. The land use has to receive planning board approval, which I've already said that's been done, and the town council has to also approve it. So, in the draft agreement, the conditions that apply to the development is the project consists of an up to 60-lot mobile home park. As I said, I don't think it's going to end up being 60 lots because of the other things that he has to find room for. The project shall include an engineered subsurface wastewater disposal system or a connection to the town sewer. The project shall include a public water system licensed by the Maine Drinking Water Program. It will be a public water supply, so it's going to be tested on an annual basis. And all the other uses that are identified in the underlying districts will continue to be allowed. So the restrictions that apply to this contract zone are a mobile home park license must be obtained from the Maine Manufactured Housing Board before the project may be permitted. All required approvals from Maine DEP must be obtained before the project may be permitted. All required approvals from MDOT have to be obtained because the project may be permitted. MDOT is involved because Central Street is a state road, so its entrance will need MDOT approval. The mobile home park must have a written policy limiting occupancy to citizens 55 years of age or older. And any change that you might want to make to that has to be approved by the town council. That's a restriction that the owner is imposing on himself. So this agreement just reflects that. It wasn't imposed by the planning board. No commercial uses may be allowed in the mobile home park, and the mobile home park must be operated in compliance with all applicable rules, regulations, and laws.
I have a question on number 5.
Yeah.
Mobile home park shall have a written policy limiting occupancy to Citizens 55 age or older, any changes to this be approved by the Bucksport Town Council. I would think that, I don't think, I mean, the question is, why should it be approved by the Bucksport Town Council? If this is an over 55 community, that wouldn't that be covered with the deed that goes to the county and so forth? And if there were issue, it would be whatever the voodoo the county would do to rectify that, not the town council. Here's where I'm coming from. I've seen these from far away and how they were regulated. If perchance it's supposed to be an over 55 community and it doesn't sell as expected, the developer may come back to someone and say, we'd like to convert this back to a standard mobile home, condo community, whatever descriptor applies. And I just don't see that the town of Bucksport and the town council having to be the agent. I would think it would fall over to the county,
Well, the people in the sub, I mean,
the
are you going to
deeds,
sell the lots, Mike, or just rent them?
you know, that type of thing. So that's the only part that I'm struggling with on that.
Sort of like a covenant.
Yeah, but we don't, I think Paul's point is we don't need to limit. You could do that yourself. We don't need to limit what you want to do if you change course. I mean, if it's permissible through DEP and everybody else.
I mean, that's a restriction that he's going to impose on himself. It doesn't need to be on in black and white.
It doesn't, yeah, he doesn't need to bring it to us, I don't think.
Yeah, whatever standards and conventions that people sign up for, you know, as being part of this community, that's between the developer and the homeowner, I would
I mean,
think.
like a subdivision covenant, which is not something that the town enforces.
Similar, yeah.
Is that the town doesn't, many subdivisions have covenants that you can't have a commercial vehicle in the yard, you can't have certain kinds of animals, or you can't, those are subdivision covenants that the town doesn't enforce and the town doesn't adjudicate or get in the middle of. Although we're asked to on occasion, I believe. The police department could tell you that, but
It's the people within the subdivision who can allow it to occur, you know. if
and
they decide
it's a civil matter between property owners to enforce covenants. It's not the town. We don't settle covenant issues.
Well, it depends. If it's a planning board imposed covenant on a subdivision plan.
If a planning board
Yes.
imposes it, yes, but if it's something that has been proposed by the developer as part of it that's not a
Right.
restriction from the regulator, then those are civil covenants.
It could be a deed restriction or a lease restriction,
Yep.
you know, a park policy, whatever you want to call it. That's something that the park owner would be responsible for enforcing. So you do have the authority, by the way, to make any changes to this agreement you think are appropriate to make before you actually act on it. If you'd like to delete that language regarding the age restriction, that can be done.
I think we should.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, let Mike do what he wants, and if he has to change course, it's up to him, not us.
We wouldn't enforce it anyway. It's
Well,
a covenant.
But
I mean, unless,
what would happen if we put that in there and then somebody within the subdivision came to us? Would that be a problem, sir?
Well,
It just seems,
we don't have an application. We have a contract zone consideration, and the differentiation here is that in this process, this first step is for the council, as Jeff has outlined very nicely, to determine if this location is an appropriate location for the activity that's been applied for. It isn't an approval of an application. We don't have one. But it's, is this use consistent with uses in the area that it is? Does this site,
that's a yes.
is this site consistent with the goals in the comprehensive plan? Is this site, could this use be applied there? And it doesn't say if it's 4 or 60 or 100 that is the right amount. The application and that's the next piece. the determination about whether this activity is appropriate in this zone is step one. Step two, if it's determined that it is for Mr. Hawes to prepare an application, submit it to the planning board. It has to meet the terms of the ordinance and the terms of state environmental permitting. So there's no guarantee here, but this determination is whether or not that this use is legitimate on that piece of land based on similar uses in the area, the goals of the community in terms of housing, etc. Though we tend to every time get caught in the what if this, what if we're not processing an application at this meeting. This meeting is entirely about whether this application, this contract zone for this purpose is appropriate. You know, if this was a contract zone to put an industrial location there because we wanted to do that, you'd be saying, is a heavy industry really good in this area? Or is this where we want? Those kind of things. That's the discussion right now. The next, and you got an email in regard to
Yes.
concerns about that email, and the concerns expressed are in relation to an application that you don't have, that we don't have yet, and that all of the things that were indicated in it will have to be answered through the application process and the DEP permitting. So while it's very, good information, it isn't this
It's
discussion.
not germane to this discussion.
This
absolutely not.
discussion is about whether or not that site, Jeff did a really good job showing you the parameters, showing you what's located next to it, doing all those things.
So should we just leave this at the 50,000 foot level for now and carry on, and it can be addressed later?
Well, it can be addressed now because there's no application in front of you to look at to say it does, doesn't, or anything.
Oh, okay, I thought we
And
were
it
looking at
has to be an engineered application, so it is going to have to address the regulations in order to even be
That
submitted.
particular use in
If
that
you do.
area.
Okay.
Yes, so what you're essentially acting on is whether or not this appears to be an appropriate use. It fits in the area that's proposed, but when you start drilling down into what you have to prove, that's the planning board's job to make that determination.
And the planning board has approved this.
Well, they've approved, again, it's a
They've
it's a concept.
They've approved this piece that we're asked to.
They believe that based on the language of this agreement, that a mobile home is
Is an acceptable use for that property.
Yeah,
Yes.
provided that they meet all the requirements
Yep.
that they
Make
have
a motion to
meet.
approve. Second.
Second.
There's one other thing I wanted
Well,
to.
then-
Well, no, why can't we make a motion to approve? We know what it is.
Because it's the first reading.
You just said we were approving it tonight.
Well, no, I'm sorry, I didn't explain that carefully, but this is an ordinance. It's an ordinance because it's a change to our official zoning map. The maps changes, and you have to approve the contract language. Because our map is being amended, it's an ordinance, and there's a two-step process. There's two readings you have to do.
I make a motion, then we go to the second one.
This is
Whatever.
the first reading, and you may recall that we had a charter change that doesn't require public hearings anymore for ordinance changes, but
It needs to be
contract zone
authorized.
changes do need to have public hearings. So the planning board held one, you are obligated to hold one as well, so that can be done at the next meeting.
And then we can act on it at the same time.
I want to point out just one more thing in the contract that's a little unusual. This has a sunset clause. And the sunset clause is put in there mainly because of the fact that we are changing our zoning map. If for some reason this mobile home park doesn't come to be, we would actually have to go back in and amend our zoning map back again to take out.
But that's
the
also 2
contract
years,
zone.
and we have
2
the
years.
opportunity to extend it if we
Well,
want.
right, so this contract would be in effect for 2 years, but at some point in time, if the project's progressing, Mr. Hawes will be coming to you, ask you to either extend the clause or eliminate it altogether. And that would be your decision at that point in time. But it's there just to make certain that we don't have to go through another ordinance revision to remove a zone that's no longer in effect.
Is it for just Mr. Hawes, or is it on this particular property for 2 years?
It runs with the land. Well, yeah, it runs with the land, so.
So if he opted to sell it to somebody else, They would still have that 2-year
They're
clause.
still obligated to that, yeah.
So the motion is to,
I don't think we have a motion. I
No
think we just
motion.
gotta go to the
There's no
second.
motion, it just goes
we
to
have to
second.
set it for a public hearing.
At the next.
Okay.
Can you read it twice today?
So we'd add it to item 14
Thanks, Jeff.
to set a public hearing.
Yeah, to set the public hearing for March.
What's it trying to make waves? At least you know I read the document.
Okay, we're going to move it on to March 8th, and we'll set a public hearing for March 8th. Okay? All right. Let's go on to item 7, discussion items for the manager's clarification or council discussions. First one being Finance Committee update.
Tabled. Information wasn't available yet, so we're gonna bring it up at the next meeting.
Okay. Item B, Ordinance Committee update.
So first, we had 3 different things we discussed in the ordinance committee. The first one was committee structure discussion. Most of the members of the town council were here, we discussed it. Our recommendation is for the town manager and the code enforcement officer to work on language for an ordinance change that will incorporate the language that we've talked about, and Sue and Jeff will work on that and bring it to us for the next meeting. The next thing was food sovereignty ordinance. We had a draft ordinance or documents that were in front of us. We had some folks that were here discussing the food sovereignty. Again, Sue is going to draft some language for an ordinance and bring that back again to the next meeting, so we're good to go there. And Chapter 5, building standards and property maintenance, we finished up Chapter 5, but we're also going to continue to incorporate that into Chapter 2. We have some things we're going to merge into other things, so we finished our work on Chapter 5-ish, but we've got some things that we're moving out of there and putting in different places, so the work is continuing, and I appreciate, and I told Jeff in the committee, and I'll say it here in the public meeting, that Jeff has done a great job in organizing this stuff and presenting it, listening to our concerns, and making those changes when necessary. So the process seems to be working right. So.
All right, item C, Appointments Committee. Robbie.
It's time of year to review the appointments, and went down the list of the current holders of the various appointments and which ones are coming vacant or are vacant. And Kathy is going to talk to the folks that are currently listed in those positions, see if they want to continue, and then we'll solicit folks for filling any of the vacancies and any other ones that may come vacant down the road. So if there are any people in the public that want to be part of these, or appointed to some of these positions, please let Kathy know, and we'll consider you for those positions. We have a number already that we are going to be considering that have expressed interest to this point. So, did we need to act on your?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want to do it under 9, under appointments, or do we want to do it here? It doesn't matter.
Can do it under 9, under appointments.
Okay.
So we will we'll act on the registrar of voters term.
Come to item 9.
Number 9.
Is that the only one we got to act on tonight?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go on to item 8 on the agenda.
We're going to table that one because we didn't do anything.
Okay. And that's,
We're going to talk about it at the next council meeting under finance. Rich is going to hopefully get some information this time. We'll see where we stand. So, to be tabled later.
this is for cable extensions, Millvale and Bucks Mills.
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll go on to item 9, resignations, appointments, assignments, and elections. We do have some appointments.
So we do need to appoint the registrar of voters, and the nominee is Kathy Downs.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the appointment of Kathy Downs as the, what is it again?
Registrar of
Registrar of
voters.
Voters. Okay. Anything from the public on this? Further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you,
Motion
Kathy.
passes. Congratulations.
Congratulations. It was a tough race, I know.
See people pushing you out of the way to get that job. Okay, item 10, approval of quick claim deeds or discharges of quick claims. We don't have anything, do we? Okay. Item 11, town manager's report.
Councilor Carmichael had asked me recently about whether Bucksport should look at assuming ownership of its streetlights and changing to LED lighting, as has been done in a number of other communities in Maine. And in looking into this recently, I find that the communities of Falmouth, South Portland, and Rockland recently collaborated on a program and have developed a template for communities to use when considering this process and to assess whether it would be good for them. I have that information and hope to have that as a committee discussion item in the near future so that we can look at that possibility. As an RSU 25 update, Anthony Wardwell won the state diving championship recently for the second year in a row. Considering he's a one-man team representing Bucksport, this is significant. And the girls wrestling team also won the state championship. Congratulations to all of them for their hard work, and I will arrange for them to attend a future council meeting so that their efforts can be recognized on camera. We're very proud of our RSU 25 students and their accomplishments. Oliver Engineering visited the Woodland Heights, Forest Hills, and Main Street areas where we are seeking solutions for drainage issues. The cost estimate for the review and development of some potential solutions is $5,000, and there will be a resolve on the meeting of the 8th to authorize that expenditure. I didn't get that until after the agenda was presented. And I still have not completed all the information for the combined goals and objectives meeting, integrating that with the department head information. I hope to have it completed this coming week. As you heard from the news earlier tonight, I've been somewhat consumed of late with other matters. And this is also a somewhat complicated piece of work because of adding timelines and proposed funding sources, etc. That is my manager's report.
Okay, item 12, set public hearings or hold public hearings and approval of any licenses or permits. We do have a festival license.
Motion approved?
That's a public hearing first.
Oh,
Come on, pay attention to the rules. You're worse than I am.
I know, it's because I sit next to him.
This is a public hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, pay no attention to the size of the room.
Yeah. Public hearing open. It's for a festival license for Joyce Burkle and Brooke Miner as a Bucksport Art Festival. Any comments from the public?
Joyce, did you want to speak at all, or are you? If anybody had any questions, we're seeking 2 days for the festival this year, a Friday and a Saturday. The only new things we might be spreading up onto Main Street. We're hoping to get 10 more artists, so that we have 50 this year, and we're going to continue to grow that festival in size and how many days?
This is for August 10th and 11th.
August 10th and 11th, yeah. And we were asking special permission to block off the little access road between the lighthouse and the bank between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Just for safety, because a lot of children run around and people walking. So the harbor master would have to be informed of that, you know, so that anybody who needed to get special boat or something, you know, anything that was common.
Rich?
I've met with Mike Ormsby, and we've already discussed, and it's okay for the that parking lot down to the marina to be shut down between 10 and 6 for those 2 days.
This, doing the license now provides for plenty of notification to those of us marina dwellers that those days will not be days to be taking a car in and out of the parking lot.
Any other comments from the public? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. Declare the public hearing closed. How would the council like to proceed?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the festival license, Bucksport Art Festival. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have to set a public hearing for this contract zoning, right?
I'm not saying anything, you guys figure it out. Yes.
Okay. We don't have to take a motion on that, we just said it, right?
March 8th, yeah, is what you
Okay, it's gonna be
indicated,
March
the
8th,
next
yeah.
council meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, going to item 13, discussion items not on the agenda for the council or the public. We'll open it up to the public first. Any discussion items from the public?
Hello. So Monday, the 26th of February, from 6 to 8 p.m., we'll be holding an Ask the Expert night. This is put on by Eastern Maine Development Corporation, Main Street, Bucksport, the Bucksport Chamber of Commerce, and is sponsored by Camden National Bank. So if you have any questions, if you started a business, if you're looking to move in with all the other new businesses that have been coming to town, this will be a great way to have some of your questions answered. Refreshments will be served. It'll be held at the Bucksport High School Library. On March 12th, at the Jewett School, we'll be holding a first-time homebuyer seminar. I sent out emails today to the local realtors. That'll be put on by TD Bank of Ellsworth. That will be 6 p.m. That'll also be at 66 Bridge Street, the Jewett School. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion items from the council?
I'd like to have Sue or get a hold of Mike to see if he can get a price. I know we talked about replacing stuff for the dock, and I haven't heard anything. If he's got something,
He has some pricing. He will within the next couple weeks be presenting that information.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go on to item 14, public hearing, designation of topics for committee assignments and scheduling of committee meetings. Schedule the ordinance committee to discuss chapter 5. Peter?
That's a
is
continuation.
that a continuation? Okay, yeah. And then we need to do a finance committee, probably another 15-minute one. So if we did the ordinance, say it's 6
On the 8th?
on the 8th, huh? Well, hang on. Do we know if Councilor Key will be here? Because he's not.
On March 8th? Yes, he will.
Yes, he will.
Okay.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. So ordinance at 6 and
Finance
finance at
6:45.
6:45.
You want to do the appointments, we'll have time for the second one to do the appointments at the 22nd. Most of them
It's
expire.
a budget meeting, but it's a council meeting too.
We
We
throw
can
that in
add
there,
that.
yeah.
You can add that as an item on the agenda. But so that that can be done prior to the end of March when those appointments expire, yes.
We can do some of them. I may be able to get in contact with everybody.
If we can do them, some of them then, if we have them, if not.
And we'll see how many applicants we get for the vacant ones too.
And we just do those during the regular meeting too, right? Yeah.
And did we decide to have the second council meeting in March on the?
No, we're going to have the
Fourth.
budget hearing on the 22nd, but then the 29th was a schedule. We're not going to have enough folks here to have a quorum on that day, so we canceled it. Right?
Yeah, we put it on the 5th.
Yeah, the 5th
April
is the
5th,
next budget meeting,
Right.
but what you've really done is move a council meeting to the 22nd, and so you can put any
We put
items on that.
items on there, right,
You'll
yeah.
have a full
Yeah.
council here, and as
Right.
long as it's published as part of the agenda, you
Right.
can
Yeah, that's, I guess, what we did.
discuss it.
I don't think we have anything else to schedule, do we? If not, we'll go on to item 15.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Congratulations, Sue.